good? The prophets, were they good?
Yes.
Yes. Was the law good? Yes. Was God good back then? Yes. But now he has spoken to us not through prophets, but by his Son, which is greater than all the prophets. Therefore, if people died for disobeying Moses under the Old Testament was a bad thing, guess what happens when you disobey the Son in the New Testament? It's worse. Graver. Do you hear what I'm saying? So it is a grave responsibility. We have to know our faith, to fully live it, so that we can fall in love with this God who has given us all of this. That's why we're studying the book of the Song of Solomon. You see the connection? This whole marriage, love, romance, courting theme, which we are going to see in the Song of Songs, is here in the book of Revelation. The whole thing is about marriage. I'll tell you, we'll eventually finish this book by hook or by crook. Oops, there we go. All right. So, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And the Spirit carried me to a great high mountain and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down from heaven. The glory of God in radiance like a very fine jewel, like jasper, clear as crystal. Now again, this is the image that John saw, this physical city coming down. But this is a symbol. It's a symbol of what? The church. And the church is who?
Us.
Us. This is us. This is how God views us, metaphorically. Does that make sense? Like a beautiful city with gold and pearls. Like a bride. It had a great high wall, 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels. So here's a gate, here's an angel, here's a gate, here's an angel. You get the idea? And on the gates are inscribed the names of the 12 tribes of the Israelites. So there's your Old Testament, Old Covenant, right? On east, 3 gates. On north, 3 gates. On south, 3 gates. And on the west, 3 gates. So 4, 12 tribes, 3 on each, 4 walls. And the walls of the city had 12 foundations. And on them are the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. So, if we're looking at this image, here are the 12 foundations, right? They're in this illustration, they're all in colors. Each one of them has one of the names: Peter, James, John, Philip, Thomas, Matthew. And on these gates, the names Dan, Issachar, Reuben, Naphtali, Joseph. Well, probably Manasseh and Ephraim. Okay? Because Joseph didn't have a tribe named after him, he was given to his grandsons. But there would be Levi, Zebulun, Gad. All right? Those are the 12 tribes of Israel. What does this represent? It represents the people of God, Jews and non-Jews, come together. All the people of God. Now, not to get into controversy, but we have to get into controversy. If you have your outline, you will notice we're in the section, the New Jerusalem described. Verse 9, this is the bride of the Lamb in symbolic form. Verses 11 through 14, the gates are the names of the 12 tribes of Israel, and the foundations, the 12 apostles. Question: is the tribe of Dan going to be one of the tribal names. You'd say, well, why is there a question? Because if you go back to Revelation chapter 6, Revelation 7. These are the 144,000 that are sealed. Remember them? Mm-hmm. Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. What's interesting here is that Joseph is named, Ephraim is not, and Dan is not mentioned. Ephraim and Dan were two tribes of Israel. And remember back here we went over, why isn't the tribe of Dan mentioned? And the answer is, the tribe of Dan was the first to fall into idolatry back in the days of the judges. Each one of these sons of Israel has a symbolic animal attached to it that was given to him by Joseph when he blessed his sons before he died. For example, the symbolic animal of Judah is a lion, because it's from Judah that all the kings would come. I don't remember all of the symbolic animals. You can go back to Genesis 49 if you want to know. But interestingly enough, when you go to Genesis 49, the symbolic animal given to Dan is a serpent. And serpents are not known to being very positive animals in the scriptures, right? So it's interesting that, and again, this is one of those things that theologians have nothing better to do with their lives than to wonder about these things. It's like, well, will Dan be one of the tribes mentioned? Because it was not one of the ones sealed in Revelation 7, and it has this history of being idolatrous. So is this God saying that he cut off the tribe of Dan and will create something else? I saw that hand, Steph. I'm going to get to you in just a moment. Hold that thought, because there is a complementary idea that goes with this. It said that there were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb that were the foundations, remember? Simon Peter, Andrew, James, John, Philip, Thomas, Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, Thaddeus, Simon, Judas, and Bartholomew. Question, will Judas be one of the foundations? Or will it be replaced with Matthias? We have no idea. We'll have to wait and see. But the point is, this is again one of those questions that theologians who have nothing better to do with their lives go, It's interesting in both cases we have one defector, if you will, from the tribes. Dan was that for Israel, and Judas was that for our Lord. So the question is, do they get a place in the New Jerusalem or not? And the question is, we don't know. It's pure speculation. But there are many theologians that would say, no, Judas will not be named because he betrayed our Lord. And as a result was replaced specifically by Matthias. Now there are those in the evangelical camp that say, no, it's probably replaced by the Apostle Paul because he wrote most of the New Testament and spread the gospel more proficiently than any of the other apostles. I don't know. And the truth is, no one knows. But it's one of those things worth mentioning because it is not here. Seth, what's your question?
Yeah, I was just going to try to remember, what tribe was Daniel from? Is he from the tribe of Dan, or was he a Levite himself?
Daniel?
Yeah,
the prophet Daniel Good question. I don't know what tribe he was from.
Because I wondered if he was from the tribe of Dan. Maybe
No, not necessarily because his name is Dan. Doesn't mean anything.
Well,
Doesn't mean
If
Interestingly enough, though, my favorite judge of Israel, Samson, was a Danite. He was from the tribe of Dan. Interesting. Samson.
Samson or Samuel?
Samson, like Samson and Delilah. Yeah. He was from the tribe of Dan. And apparently Delilah, because of the relationship she had with Samson, got incorporated into the tribe of Dan. Because you read Judges 17, and she, and I believe the son of Samson, settled in Dan and led the people of Dan into idolatry after his death, interestingly enough. So, yes.
Did the tribes come to Israel, or did they start in Israel and were dispersed?
Well, you know, they were in Egypt, and then when they left Egypt, when they settled in the land after they conquered it, they settled in different areas of Israel.
They all came together from Egypt?
Yes. Yes. Question?
would this be applicable, this analogy, or not? Judas is to Dan as Matthias is to...
Probably Ephraim. Probably. The replacement. Because Joseph was one of the sons of Israel, but he didn't get a personal inheritance in the land. It was passed on to his grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh. They each received their own portion of the land. I'm just going to make this really quick. There we go. That's a good one. This is a brief. Let me see if I can make it bigger. This is based on the scriptures where each of the tribes settled in the land after they conquered it. So each of these are the tribes of Israel and where they got their land. The one tribe that did not get any land was I'm wearing Levi, right. Why? They were priests. They were not given an inheritance of land. They were charged to run the temple. So that was their inheritance. But this is, see, Manasseh gets a huge portion. So does Ephraim. These are Joseph's grandsons, not his sons. All these other names are Joseph's sons: Simeon, Judah, Reuben, Gad, Dan, Benjamin, Issachar, Zebulun, Naphtali, Asher, and Levi.
You mean son of Jacob? Son
Oh, yes, son of Jacob. Yes, not Joseph. Joseph, as you see, is not listed. He was one of the sons of Jacob, sons of Israel. But he did not get any inheritance. His grandsons did. Manasseh and Ephraim took his place. So that fills the gap of having 12 tribes.
That's a very small area. It's almost like today's Israel.
Yeah, it is today's Israel. The only difference is this area here that is occupied by Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben is what we would call Jordan today.
Oh, yeah. They extended into Jordan.
Yes. And really this area up here, Asher and Naphtali, this area right here from Sidon to Tyre, this is modern day Lebanon. So you see, back in the day, Israel extended, what we understand as Israel today goes, and by the way, this, interestingly enough, this is the Gaza Strip. This today is exactly where the Gaza Strip is today. It's old Philistine. are still a thorn in the side of Israel. Because this is where Hezbollah keeps sending all of their missiles into Israel. They launch missiles from here into Israel just to cause havoc. But they've settled there. This was once owned, the Gaza Strip was once controlled by Israel, but they gave it up for a peace accord to giving land to Palestinians. And as a result, it's now under Palestinian control only. Israel has no control over that. So it's just interesting how that is. Okay? Just a little history/geography lesson for back then and today. Okay? So anyway, back to this. So again, little theological question for you to ponder. Will Judah's name be on the foundation, and will we find Dan on one of the gates? Okay. The angel who talked to me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city and its gates and walls. The city lies 4 square, its length the same as its width, and the measure of the city with the rod 1,500 miles. And again, that's American measurements. In Greek, it was 12,000 stadia. Okay. But this translation attempts to translate old style measurements into understandable measurements. Okay. And again, this is a symbolic measurement. There isn't a city that's coming that's 12,000 miles. Okay. The city is us, my brothers and sisters. It's not a thing. It's us. This is a symbolic rendering of what the city of God is, what the people of God are. Okay? And again, 12,000, symbolic number. 12 is the number of governing. 1,000 means a lot. And a huge, uncountable amount. Okay? So don't get hung up on the literalness of this. I know there are Protestant preachers that believe that this will be a literal thing that comes down from heaven and orbit the earth at the end of time. Because one of the interesting